Good morning everyone. This is Raghu, Assistant Professor of Biotechnology from SRN BCNR Government College, Khammam. So today's topics are translation and genetic code. In the previous class we have seen transcription and post-transcriptional modifications in eukaryotes as well as prokaryotes. In this class we will see translation and the process of translation and how proteins are synthesized and genetic code. So while coming to the definition of translation, converting the information present in the mRNA into a protein is called as translation, or synthesis of protein with the help of mRNA that is synthesized from DNA is called as translation. Before discussing about the translation, we have to see the types of RNA in order to understand the process of translation clearly. While coming to the types of RNA, there are three types of RNA: mRNA, tRNA and rRNA. The other types, snRNPs and all those things, we will discuss whenever they come. So these are the three major types of RNA which are involved in the process of protein synthesis: mRNA, tRNA, rRNA. mRNA is also called as messenger RNA. So it is a mature RNA that is obtained after processing of hnRNA, heterogeneous RNA, after splicing. So the heterogeneous RNA after splicing and modification, it will become the mature messenger RNA. And the tRNA, also called as transfer RNA. So this tRNA plays an important role as an adapter. It brings the amino acids at the site of protein synthesis. So that is the function of this tRNA. So here we will see the structure of this tRNA in detail in the upcoming slides. And the other one is rRNA, ribosomal RNA. These RNA are present in the ribosomes, hence they are called as rRNA, ribosomal RNA. So these are the three major types of RNA. So first we will see the structure of mRNA and compare between prokaryotic and eukaryotic RNA, mRNA. So you can see on the left top, it is the prokaryotic mRNA, so which is showing that it can code for more than one protein. It has the information to code for more than one protein. So prokaryotic RNAs, mRNAs are multi-protein mRNAs. Since the prokaryotic genes are called as operons and they can code for more than one protein during the process of translation. Whereas in eukaryotes, only one single protein is coded by mRNA at a time. So there is no chance of coding more than one protein. So only one protein can be coded by using eukaryotic mRNAs. If you see the structure in detail, the prokaryotic mRNA has 5' untranslated region, 3' untranslated region, and between that there are three. Here in this they have shown three genes. That means information present in genes is copied into mRNA, and the information in mRNA will code for more than one protein. So that is prokaryotic mRNA. And in eukaryotic mRNA, it has 5' UTR, and there is a modification 7-methyl guanylate, which is called as a cap, at the 5' region, and at the 3' region there is a polyadenylation tail, and this mRNA will code for only one protein. So it has the information to code only one protein, that is eukaryotic mRNA. So that is prokaryotic mRNA. And I have already mentioned that prokaryotic transcription and translation are coupled in prokaryotes. Immediately after being synthesized, the mRNA, it is immediately translated and immediately proteins are synthesized. Whereas in eukaryotic mRNAs, after post-transcriptional modifications, that occur in the nucleus, the mRNA will travel from the nucleus to cytosol, where the protein synthesis may occur in either endoplasmic reticulum or cytosol. So that is eukaryotic mRNAs. If you see the clear structure of eukaryotic mRNAs, before +1 sequence, that means upstream the +1 sequence, there are certain regions in prokaryotes as well as eukaryotes. Those are called as consensus sequences, and these consensus sequences play an important role in attaching to the ribosomes. That means the mRNA contains these sequences, and with the help of these sequences the ribosomes will bind to the mRNA. Upstream to these sequences are present upstream to the +1 sequence. So in prokaryotes, that means in E. coli or prokaryotes, it is called as Shine-Dalgarno sequence. So this is the sequence AGG that lies upstream of the first +1 codon. So that sequence is called as Shine-Dalgarno sequence. The anti-Shine-Dalgarno sequence will be present in the ribosome. So with the help of this anti-Shine-Dalgarno sequence, this ribosome will bind to Shine-Dalgarno sequence that is present on the mRNA. So that is the function of Shine-Dalgarno sequence. So if it is in eukaryotes, it is called as Kozak sequence. It is called as Kozak sequence. AGCCACCAUG. So AUG will be your first codon. So the sequence that is present before AUG is called as Kozak sequence. So the anti-Kozak sequence is present in the ribosome in eukaryotes. That means in eukaryotes the ribosomes are 60S and 40S. In prokaryotes they are 70S and 30S. So Shine-Dalgarno sequence is present in the mRNA, and anti-Shine-Dalgarno sequence is present in the 30S subunit. Whereas in eukaryotes, Kozak sequence is present in the mRNA, and anti-Kozak sequence is present in the 40S subunit of the ribosome. So Shine-Dalgarno sequence is especially present in prokaryotes. It is absent in eukaryotes. In eukaryotes, it is called as Kozak sequence. So these sequences play an important role in binding of mRNA and ribosomes. So that is mRNA. So the mRNA in prokaryotes will code for more than one protein. In eukaryotes, it will code for only single type of protein. And post-transcriptional modifications are involved in eukaryotes. And upstream to the +1 sequence, there are Shine-Dalgarno sequences in prokaryotes, whereas they are called as Kozak sequences in eukaryotes. So this is about mRNA. And the next one, the major one that is involved in protein synthesis is tRNA. So this is tRNA, which is having 5 major arms, 4 major arms we can say, and 5 is an extra loop. So you can clearly see they have amino acid attaching site, and opposite to that anticodon site, a DHU dihydroxyuridine modified loop, also called as D loop, and pseudouridine T loop, T pseudouridine C loop, and a small space RAM which is shown in the orange color in the left side of the diagram. So the pink color portion is the portion to which the amino acid will attach to the tRNA, and the anticodon side, which is in brinjal color, so that will attach the tRNA to the codon that is present on the mRNA. You can clearly see the codon, it is attaching to the codon, so hence it is called as anticodon arm. And dihydroxyuridine loop, D loop and T loop have modified bases that will prevent the nuclease action on tRNA molecules. And this is the structure of tRNA, and the main function of tRNA is bringing of amino acids at the site of protein synthesis. So it will act as an adapter. So it is called as adapter function, bringing the amino acids at the site of protein synthesis. So that means it will be attaching to mRNA and also attaching to the protein So during the protein synthesis, the adjacent amino acid will be attached to this amino acid which is incoming. So that is the function of tRNA. So bringing the amino acids at the site of protein synthesis. So that is tRNA. So the next one is rRNA, ribosomal RNA. So as we know, in prokaryotes, the ribosomes are made up of 30S subunit and 50S subunit, and in eukaryotes, the ribosomes are made up of 40S subunit and 60S subunit. So a part of the RNA, they also contain proteins. The ribosomes, a part of RNA, they also contain proteins. So if you see the different types of RNA that the ribosome subunits contain, first one is prokaryotes. In 30S subunit, which is a smaller subunit, it contains 60S rRNA and 21 proteins, whereas in eukaryotes, the smaller subunit is called as 40S subunit. It contains 18S rRNA and 33 proteins. Whereas the larger subunit in prokaryotes, the 50S subunit contain 23S rRNA, 5S rRNA plus 34 proteins. In 60S subunits, larger subunit, in eukaryotes, it contains 20S rRNA, 5.8S rRNA, 5S rRNA plus proteins. So these are the different subunits that are present in prokaryotes and eukaryotes, and the subunit contains rRNA as well as proteins. The main function of ribosomes is the ribosome is the principal structure on which the protein synthesis will take place. So the smaller subunit and larger subunit, they will go and bind to the mRNA, where the process of protein synthesis will take place. So that is the function of the three different RNAs, mRNA, tRNA, rRNA. So the next one is process of translation. So as DNA replication and transcription, the translation process will also takes place by three-step method. It is initiation, elongation and termination. So these are the three different steps that are involved in the process of translation. So in this topic, we will discuss the three different steps involved in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes, and we will have clear idea what are the differences that will occur during the translation in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So before going into the process of translation, these are the translation factors that are present in prokaryotes and eukaryotes, which play an important role in initiation, elongation and termination of translation. So in prokaryotes, they are called as, the initiation factors are called as initiation factor 1, 2 and 3. If it is in eukaryotes, it is called as eukaryotic initiation factors. EIF1, 1A, 2, 3, 2B, 3, 4A, 4E, 4G, 4H, 5, 5B, etc. So these initiation factors, they will initiate the process of translation, and we will clearly see what are the functions of different initiation factors when we are discussing the process of initiation. And the elongation factors, so which play an important role in the process of elongation. So elongation factor ETU, elongation factor TS, elongation factor G. These are the three elongation factors present in prokaryotes. In eukaryotes, they are called as EF1 alpha, 1 beta gamma, EF2. So these are the elongation factors, and termination factors or release factors. So RF1, RF2, RF3, they are present in prokaryotes. Eukaryotic RF1, RF3 in eukaryotes. So these are the initiation factors and elongation factors that are present in prokaryotes and eukaryotes that play an important role in three steps of translation. So now we will see the process of translation in prokaryotes. So as I mentioned, so translation process starts with initiation. So you can clearly see the 30S subunit there on the left top, and a GTP molecule and initiation factors IF1, IF2 and IF3. So here initiation factor, all the three initiation factors will go and bind to the 30S subunit, where there will be hydrolysis of GTP, and before hydrolysis of GTP, the initiator tRNA will also come and bind. So here three factors you can clearly see. 30S subunit is brought up by initiation factors, and mRNA and initiator tRNA. So in prokaryotes, the initiator tRNA is called as formyl methionine tRNA. There is a modification of methionine tRNA, that is formylation, hence it is called as formyl methionine tRNA. Whereas in eukaryotes, it is called as normal methonyl tRNA. Normal methonyl tRNA, there won't be any modification. That is the major difference. So here the initiation factors will bring the 30S subunit, the mRNA comes and initiator tRNA will come, and they will form an pre-initiation complex where the initiation factor 3 will be released, IF3 will be released. So you can clearly see in the diagram. So the 30S subunit binding to Shine-Dalgarno sequence that is present in the 5' region of the mRNA, and the formyl methionine tRNA binding to the mRNA with its anti-codon arm. So that means to the codon, the first codon AUG, that is present on the mRNA. After that, you can clearly see the 50S subunit. The 50S subunit coming, and with the hydrolysis of GTP, the 50S subunit will be placed on the 30S subunit, forming a 70S initiation complex. Now you can clearly see the 70S initiation complex with mRNA, with 30S subunit, 50S subunit, with formyl methonyl tRNA in the P site. So now you can clearly see three different sites that are present on the ribosome: E site, P site, A site. So E means exit site, tRNA exit site. P means peptidyl transferase site, and A means amino acid tRNA entry site. So these are the three sites. Once this entire 70S complex with mRNA is formed, the process of translation is being initiated. So this is initiation of translation in prokaryotes. So the next one is elongation. So in the previous slide, you have clearly seen the initiation complex. That now you can see that initiation complex on the top right, on the left position, with formyl methionine tRNA. So now the first step involved in the process of elongation is bringing of a new tRNA, which is complementary to the codon present on the mRNA at the site of protein synthesis. So you can clearly see EFTU GTP. So a second tRNA with an amino acid, you can clearly see on the top EAA2 is the second tRNA that is brought up at the site of protein synthesis to A site by EFTU GTP. So the EFTU GTP brings the tRNA which contains the second amino acid. After bringing with the hydrolysis of GTP, the second tRNA will be introduced into the A site, and the EFTU now will become EFTU GTP will become EFTU GDP, and this EFTU GDP will be recycled by EFTS again to EFTU GTP, and again the next incoming new tRNA will be brought out by EFTU. So the main function of EFTU GTP is bringing of loaded tRNA, amino acid loaded tRNA at the site of protein synthesis, that means A site. So after bringing, it will become EFTU GDP, and that EFTU GDP will be recycled again to EFTU GDP by EFTS. So these are the elongation factors that are involved in the process of elongation: EFTU, GDP, and EFTS. So now the second amino acid, you can clearly see the second amino acid entered into A site of the ribosome. Now you can clearly see two amino acids are present on the adjacent A site and P site. With the help of peptidyl transferase, an enzyme that is present in the P site, there will be formation of a peptide bond between the two adjacent amino acids. Now you can clearly see the peptidyl transferase forming a peptide bond, then a dipeptide, that means a peptide with two amino acids formed here. You can clearly see in the diagram and the left down. Now one tRNA is decharged, that means it transferred its amino acid onto the neighbor tRNA, forming a dipeptide. So now the uncharged tRNA will be entering to the E site, and the charged tRNA having dipeptide will enter to the P site, and this happens by a process called as translocation, that means movement of ribosome. So here the tRNA won't be moving, the ribosome that is present on the mRNA will be moving. So the mRNA will be constant and the tRNA that is present on mRNA will also be constant. Only the ribosome will be moving. That process is called as translocation. And this translocation of ribosome needs energy in the form of GTP, and that is provided by EFG. So EFG is the elongation factor that plays an important role in the translocation of ribosome that is present on the mRNA with the help of GTP. So once the ribosome is moved, now the uncharged tRNA will be occupying the exit site, you can see on the left top, and it will be discharged, and now the dipeptide will be moving to the peptidyl transferase site, and EFG is converted into EFG GDP, and it will be reset again to EFG GTP. Again the process will be repeating. So new incoming tRNA will be brought by EFTU GTP, and EFTU GTP is recycled by EFTS, and EFG plays an important role in the process of translocation. So this is the process of elongation in prokaryotes. So the next step is termination. So termination is mediated by release factors RF1, RF2 and RF3. These are the three release factors play an important role in the process of termination. So once the protein of required amino acid length is synthesized, immediately stop codons will be entering into the phase. Once the ribosome enters the stop codon, immediately release factors play an important role in releasing the mRNA and protein that is synthesized, and detachment of ribosomal subunits into 50S and 30S subunit. So the release factors will bind to the stop codons, which you can clearly see there. The release factors with the help of GTP, they bound to the stop codon, and immediately the release of tRNA, free tRNA and ribosomal subunits and mRNA and polypeptide chain that is synthesized, you can clearly see in the diagram. So that is the process of initiation, elongation and termination of protein synthesis in prokaryotes. So the next one is eukaryotic translation. So here in the initiation process of eukaryotic translation, you can clearly see the smaller ribosomal subunit having the initiator tRNA, that is methionine tRNA, whereas in case of prokaryote it is formal methionine tRNA. and this tRNA is brought out by eukaryotic initiation factor 2, EIF2. And now another initiation factors called as 4G and 4E, they will bring the mRNA at the site of protein synthesis. Now there will be a pre-initiation complex that will taking place. The mRNA will be binding, and additional initiation factors play an important role in the formation of pre-initiation complex, where the methionine tRNA is brought and the 40S subunit will be binding to the Kojak sequence of the mRNA, and this is the initiation complex that is formed with the help of initiation factors of eukaryotes. So in the previous slide we can see the mRNA binding to smaller subunit and the binding of initiator methionine tRNA. So the same thing you can see in the left top right. And now the larger subunit will be going to bind to the pre-initiation complex, and this larger subunit will be binding, and there will be hydrolysis of GTP, forming a larger subunit with, that means ATS subunit on the mRNA with A site, P site and E site. Now you can clearly see the methionine tRNA occupying the P site of the ribosome. So this is the entire initiation of translation in eukaryotes, which is mediated by different initiation factors. Now we will see the elongation. In the previous slides we have seen the process of elongation in prokaryotes, which is mediated by EFTU. So EFTU will bring the charged tRNA. The same thing will be done by EF1 alpha in eukaryotes. EF1 alpha in eukaryotes, bringing of charged tRNA to the site of ribosome. Then EFTS, it recycled the EFTU GDP to EFTU GTP. The same thing will be done by eukaryotic elongation factor 1 beta gamma. So this 1 beta gamma will be recycling EF1 alpha GDP to EF1 alpha GTP. So aiding like EFTS. So it does the same function as EFTS does. And the process of translocation of ribosome, so movement from one codon to another codon, is called as translocation. And this translocation is mediated by EFG GTP in case of prokaryotes. So in eukaryotes the same function is done by elongation factor EF2. So that is the function of different elongation factors which play an important role in the process of elongation. So while coming to the termination process in eukaryotes, so the stop codons are recognized by eukaryotic release factors RF1 and RF4. Once a stop codon is found by the ribosome, so immediately the release factor, eukaryotic release factor, will occupy the A site of the ribosome, and immediately it plays an important role in detachment of the two subunits of ribosomes, the mRNA as well as the synthesized protein. So the peptide will be released, the synthesized peptide will be released. So that is the process of termination. Same thing that happened in the prokaryotes. So the release factors will occupy the A site, and immediately termination of protein synthesis will take place. The subunits will be detached and the mRNA will be dissociated and the peptide will be released. So this is the process of translation in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So the next topic is genetic code. So the proteins are synthesized based on the code that is present on the mRNA. Code that is present on the mRNA. It is called as genetic code or codon, which is comprised of 3 nucleotides. Each codon is comprised of 3 nucleotides. And this genetic code is cracked by 3 different scientists, Nirenberg, Mathey, Okaka and Corona et al. So these 4 scientists, along with some other scientists, they cracked the genetic code with their experiments that we will see. So before cracking the genetic code, so they have the biochemists have already discovered the 20 standard amino acids that are involved in the proteins. So these 20 standard amino acids, for coding these 20 standard amino acids, there are only 4 nitrogen bases, and the combination of 4 nitrogen bases should code for the 20 amino acids. So you have 4 nitrogen bases and they have to code for 20 amino acids. So if you use 2 nitrogen bases in a codon, then you have 4 nitrogen bases, 4 to the power of 2, then you have 4 into 4, 16 codons, which is not sufficient for the synthesis of 20 amino acids. So if you have 3 nitrogen bases in a codon, 4 into 4 into 4, that is 64 codons. So these 64 codons are enough for the synthesis of 20 amino acids. So this is the theory, and which is proved by Nirenberg, Mathey and Okaka and Corona et al. So Nirenberg, Mathey and Corona, with their experiments using synthetic nucleotides, synthetic copolymers, synthetic polymers and also synthetic mini mRNAs, they have given the entire 64 codons which can code for 20 different amino acids which are present in the proteins, and cracked the entire genetic code. So this is the entire genetic code given by the 3 scientists. So first letter, second letter and third letter, using 4 nitrogen bases of the mRNA, UCAG. You can clearly see in the left corner UCAG, and the left top UCAG, which is the second letter, and the towards right side from the left, the third letter UCAG. You can see the entire 64 codons, in which there are 3 stop codons, UAA, UAG and UGA. So these are the 3 stop codons. From the entire genetic code, you can clearly see some amino acids are having more than 1 codon, sometimes 2, sometimes 4 or sometimes 6. Some amino acids, they contain only 1 codon, and there are 3 stop codons. So and the amino acids which have 1 codon are methionine and also tryptophan. You can see beneath the stop codon, tryptophan, methionine and tryptophan. These are having only single codon. Certain amino acids like leucine is having 6 codons. You can see on the left position beneath the phenylalanine, leucine is having 6 codons. Rest of the amino acids will be having 2 or more than 2 codons. So this is the entire genetic code that was given by Nirenberg, Mathey and Corona et al. While coming to the properties of genetic code that is present on the mRNA, it is non-overlapping and commaless. You can see the non-overlapping genetic code on the top, AUG, UGG, and at the bottom AUU, UGG. So there is no overlap and there is no commas or full stops, but the adjacent codons are recognized exactly by the anticodon that is present on the tRNA, and it is marked out clearly, but there won't be any commas or full stops in between the codons. If it is overlapping genetic code, it will be like which is shown in the right side on the top. If it is overlapping means the proteins that will be coded of no use. So that won't happen in the genetic code. So it is non-overlapping and commaless, or there won't be any commas or full stop in between the codons. So next one is degeneracy or redundancy of the genetic code. A single amino acid is having more than one codon. So that is degeneracy of genetic code or redundancy. Each amino acid is coded by more than one codon. As I mentioned, except two amino acids, methionine, which is the initiator amino acid, that is AUG, which is coded by AUG, we can clearly see in the genetic code, and tryptophan, UGG. So these are the only two amino acids which have only one codon. So rest of the amino acids have more than one codon. So that is called as degeneracy or redundancy of the genetic code. And the genetic code is universal. And the genetic code is universal. That means it is common for prokaryotes as well as eukaryotes. The codons will code for same amino acids if they are present in prokaryotes or also eukaryotes, with some exceptions that will occur, which is shown in this slide. So codon UGA generally is a stop codon. It's a standard codon universally, but in mitochondria, in mammals, it is coding for tryptophan. In yeast also it is coding for tryptophan. AUA in standard it will code for isoleucine, whereas in mitochondria of mammals and yeast it is coding for methionine. CUA it is leucine in standard, whereas it is leucine in mitochondria of mammals and threonine in mitochondria of yeast. And AGA and AGG, they are codons for arginine in standard code, and it is a stop codon in mitochondria of mammals, and it will code again for arginine in yeast. So these are the few exceptions. A part of these exceptions, the genetic code, entire genetic code is universal. So universal means it will code for same amino acid whether it is present in prokaryotes or in eukaryotes. So because of the universal nature of the genetic code, it made easy for the synthesis of eukaryotic proteins in prokaryotes in recombinant DNA technology. So you can synthesize eukaryotic proteins with the help of recombinant DNA technology in prokaryotes also. Since the genetic code is same, since it is coding for the same amino acid, if it is present in prokaryotes also or eukaryotes also, it made easy for the synthesis of proteins both in eukaryotic proteins in prokaryotes. So that is the universal nature of the genetic code. So next is Obel's pairing. Obel's pairing. So it is also called as non-Watson and Crick pairing. So you can clearly see the tRNA as well as the mRNA here, the codon and anticodon. So what does Obel's pairing shows? So for example, if you take leucine, it is having 6 codons. It is having 6 codons. If you see the genetic code clearly, it will be showing 6 codons beneath the phenylalanine on the left side top. So here the first 2 letters are very important in the coding leucine, and the last letter, that is letter number 3 in the codon, it does not follow Watson and Crick pairing, and whatever may be the codon that is present, it will code for leucine. So if you are taking CUC is the codon which is pairing with the anticodon. So the third letter in the codon is C, and the first letter in the anticodon which is present on the 5' end of the tRNA is G. So it is coding for leucine. And if you see the next one, in the mRNA the codon is changed from C to U, but the tRNA codon doesn't change, so it remains same, it is G. So the pairing is between G and U. It is non-Watson and Crick pairing, that is called as Vobel's pairing. So the third letter of the codon and the first letter of the anticodon, that does not follow the Watson and Crick base pairing, which is called as Vobel's base pairing. So this is called as Vobel's hypothesis. So this is the Vobel's pairing. So anticodon, first base that is present on tRNA. So if it is U, in the third base of codon that is present on the mRNA, it can bind either to A and G. If it is C in the anticodon, it will bind to G. If it is A, it will bind to U in the codon. If it is G in the anticodon, first base, it will bind to either U or C. Or if it is inosine, it resembles G, it can bind to the codon, that is third base, if it is either U or C or A. So this is called as Vobel's pairing, that is pairing between third letter in the codon and the first letter in the anticodon of the tRNA. That does not follow the Watson-Crick pairing. So that is called as Vobel's base pairing. So this is translation process and the process of genetic code and properties of genetic code. So thank you very much for patiently listening to the topic. Thank you.